All right, welcome in to the 411 on Wrestling Podcast. I am your host, Blake Lovell, and today we are jumping into Wrestle Kingdom 15. And to do that, we are bringing back one of our favorites here on the podcast, and that is, of course, 411's Ian Hamilton. And Ian, great to have you back on, getting ready for a very exciting time of year in the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling as we get ready for Wrestle Kingdom.
Probably the busiest time of year outside of the G1s, but yeah, Wrestle Kingdom, it's smaller crowd, smaller scale than usual, but definitely special time of year for any fans of New Japan.
Yep, it is for sure, and we are going to run through the card for Night 1 and Night 2, and we will just go through, talk about each of these matches, and give some thoughts on how things could play out there, as you said, and a different Wrestle Kingdom, but should still present quite a fun and entertainment value when it comes to the in-ring product. Let's start with Night 1. On the pre-show, we will have the New Japan Ranbo match, which will take place, it will air on the stream, and it will take place on the pre-show, which will have 22 entrants in this thing, Ian, and as we said, we don't know who they're going to be, but if you just deduct who else is going to be on the card elsewhere at Wrestle Kingdom, there are some names you can come up with. I know you've already put together some in terms of who we could see in this match.
Yeah, so this, I know the New Japan website isn't exactly clear in how they phrase this, so the New Japan Rambo, it's their version of Royal Rumble. It's not going to be the way Rumbles, Battle Royals, Rambos, however you want to call it, typically work. The final four of these will be going into a match on Night 2 to get the first KOPW 2021 Provisional Champion. So that trophy Toru Yano carried around for the second half of this year. That's kind of building to this. Yeah, I mean, I don't think they did a Rambo last year. I think it was the Never six-man title gauntlet.
Yeah.
But Rambos did tend to be a bit of a thing for the undercards. This will be on the pre-show, just for anyone who's planning to stay up late or get up early. That's going to be 7 a.m. UK time, 2 o'clock Eastern, 11 p.m. Pacific on Sunday night if you're really going to stay up late, for the first week back at work. But yeah, talking about some names in there. I mean, if you look at the cards, I'm not expecting people who are on Night 2 to jump on this one. I'm not expecting anybody to do double duty, but there are some pretty glaring omissions on these cards, like Toru Yano, obviously won the 2020 trophy, not on the cards at all. Carl Fredericks, he's apparently relocating from Los Angeles. I'd expect him to be thereabouts. He's no longer a young lion, so he should be on one of these shows in some form. Tomohiro Ishii, nowhere to be seen. He's one of the Never six-man champs. Hiroki Goto, Yoshihashi, neither of those guys are on the card anyway. Minoru Suzuki, can't find him in these shows. Toa Hinawe, Bad Luck Fale, Chase Owens, Tomoyaki Honma, Togi Makabe, show just to name things, about a dozen names I've just rattled off there. And I know in the past they have gone to like the recent history. So may not be 22 guys just from New Japan's current roster, maybe some names from not about Gedo, Jaro, names who fill in the blanks. Maybe some names for promotions not too distant past as well.
Yep, we could see that. As you said, there's a lot of interesting names could be in there, and as you mentioned, we will. There's no reason for us to bring it up on Night 2, but there will be that four-way on Night 2 to determine the King of Pro Wrestling 2021. So that will be on the Night 2 after we see who comes down to the final there on Night 1. But going into the main card, it will kick off in a big way as Hiromu Takahashi will take on El Phantasmo. Of course, Hiromu, the Best of Super Juniors winner, and then you've got the Super J-Cup winner in Phantasmo. This should be a really, there's a reason this is going to kick things off, Ian, because this should be quite a match between these two. Obviously on the line, we'll go and face Ishimori on Night 2 for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title. This should be a great one because, as we know, we look at some of these recent matches we've seen between these two. Hiromu's match with El Desperado several weeks ago. You look at some of the matches that certainly, what El Phantasmo, what he's been able to do here over the past little while. Both of these two clashing for the first time here. This should be a really fun one.
Phantasmo, he had a fairly long run in the UK with Rev Pro before he went to New Japan. Back-to-back Super J-Cup winner. The one thing that I found was a bit weird, and you know why, a lot of the New Japan Strong, the US shows were pre-taped. That promo after he won the J-Cup, did not mention Hiromu by name, which, I mean, to be fair, you know, Hiromu, I guess, was the guy they were expecting to win, and if you believe the reports elsewhere, the rumours, Phantasmo was meant to have had a monster push in 2020. Obviously, COVID, lockdowns and all that. He's been over in Canada most of the year, so that's not been on the cards. Hiromu just came back, a year ago, to have just come back from injury. I would say Hiromu's going to be pretty high up on a lot of people's Wrestle of the Year lists for 2020. Just you look at his, the brief run he had in the New Japan Cup, beating some heavyweights. Okay, came up short to Evil in his titles match, but he's had a really good run when he has been in singles action this year. I'd say this to kick off the show could be a bit of a show steal to for everyone else to be chasing after. I wouldn't particularly say I wouldn't say maybe a 5-star match in the traditional sense, but you've seen El Phantasmo. He's the last year now. He's been winning his matches by low blow roll ups. I'd expect Hiromu more than smart bats, so maybe see some shenanigans or playing around on that. It's going to be a really good match. I think the problem is because the winner's facing Ishimori on night 2, it kind of, again, this is me overthinking things, it kind of gives away the result, I feel. I'm not expecting El Phantasmo against Taiji Ishimori on the Tuesday show, which is a shame because that might just kind of pull me out a little bit, but it'll be a really good match. And hey, if we're sitting here at 8:30 Monday morning seeing El Phantasmo as the winner, that's going to raise quite a lot of eyebrows.
Yeah, I agree with you. And like you said, I mean, maybe it's sort of the sell of knowing that, like you said, this should be a good match. Maybe that night 2 match of the Ishimori could be even better. But either way, I think we should get treated to something special, probably a little bit different. I was watching the Hiromu and Ospreay match from Wrestle Kingdom, of course, from this past year. Probably be a little bit different than that, but still should be a good match. And that will lead us into the second match on the card, which will be for the IWGP Tag Team Championships, as it will be Zack Sabre Jr. and Tachi taking on the Guerillas of Destiny. This is an interesting one, of course. I think, Ian, you talk about the year that someone like Tachi has had, the G1 Climax, I think for him, really stood out. You and I talked about that after the G1. He's someone that I've said I've always enjoyed what he does. I know there have been times just given the shtick and sort of just being in the faction that he's in, sometimes that certainly holds back that character a little bit in terms of people can get frustrated at times, but he's had quite a year, and this is another one where interesting tag team match, interesting pairing here between these two, and obviously the Guerillas of Destiny, not unfamiliar with being the challengers for the tag titles.
I mean, Guerillas of Destiny won World Tag League, first time they've won it. Their record at Wrestle Kingdom hasn't been too great. They tend to have been coming in as champions and lose to the league winners. They've had a very short build this match. I mean, yeah, they had the Road to Tokyo Tour, only 3 of those shows was made tape. So really, we've only had 3 shows of build for this. And the Guerillas have pretty much been dominant in those. I wouldn't say like blow away squashes. They have had the upper hand throughout in all those matches. This one could be another sleeper match. And I know, okay, Zack Sabre Jr., Taiji, some people reckon 2020 they've not lit people's world on fire, especially the World Tag League run where Taiji just seemed to be doing nothing but choking people for large parts of the tournament. Guerillas of Destiny, for a lot of people, just the mere mention of their names make their eyes roll. They've, since the shutdown, they've hit, I'd say, a bit of form, I'd say. They've come back a little bit refreshed. If you've seen the New Japan Strong shows, they've kept some of the usual stuff, but they've also, they've clearly been revitalized by all that time off. Who wouldn't be? This is going to be a sneaky good match. I mean, it was one a while back. I'm trying to think of the Guerillas against Killer Elite Squad, I want to say, Tokyo Dome, which I know probably got back to be wrong, but members of Guerillas Killer Elite Squad match, which a lot of people were looking at maybe not being kind of like this, or it's going to be a heel match, not being any good, and it blew people away. I'll expect this maybe not be your conventional tag title match. I'm not you're not going to get your hot tags or your good guys shining, what have you. I think this is going to be 2 bad guy teams trying to undercut the other most. And no, it's going to be entertaining. My only worry is, you do have Suzuki gun stuff on one side, you do have a Bullet Club on the other. If you start leaning too heavily on shenanigans there, obviously Jado ringside with Guerrilla's Destiny as well. I do have maybe that could be a bit too much, in terms of in terms of window dressing for match. But I think this, we've got tag titles on the line. I reckon this one it's on the card for a reason. These are 6-match cards both nights. They're not putting a match on the card just to pad it out this year.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's different when you have, like you said, the two sort of heel teams going up against each other because playing off of each other, not always maybe the best formula when you have two that sort of have, again, the characters and just how they go about their business in terms of within their own group. So interesting match, like you said, could be a bit of a sleeper because it is one that didn't necessarily have a ton of build heading into it. But again, 4 good workers, and we'll see what happens in that one. All right, that takes us to the match that we probably never expected to see, but unfortunately, due to Juice Robinson's injury, there had to be a replacement, and that is going to be Kenta defending the IWGP U.S. Heavyweight contract, the right to challenge for the title. He will be defending it against Satoshi Kojima, and that is one where, like we said, we probably never envisioned this match, even, several weeks ago, a month ago, but here we are due to Juice's injury, and I find this intriguing. I mean, again, I think this is one where you probably know what the outcome's going to be, but if you sort of go into it thinking about Kojima's history and what he's accomplished and sort of Kenta, where he's at in his career as someone who has basically said, he thinks he's the best that there is, and I find this more fascinating maybe than it looks to be on paper, just because I've always been one that enjoys kind of this situation where you have this rising young star going up against the older, veteran and someone that has accomplished all that he has. So I think at least for that respect, I find this interesting, even if like we maybe think that this could be one that you probably know who's going to win this one.
I mean, I think if you'd had this match 10 years ago, this would have been a lot better match, in 2011.
Yeah.
I do think that so if you look the way this match came out, so you had it the World Tag League Finals. Kenta cost Juice and Dave Finlay the finals. Ran in hit with briefcase vows to set this up, and they'd literally only just announced the match on, I believe it was the show Tuesday last week, so pretty much 2 weeks by the time this takes place, but literally just shot the angle to challenge and have a match accepted. And then Juice goes down for a broken orbital bone, I think it was. Kojima, was literally the same day replacement. A lot of people, because I remember that morning watching just watching the Twitter timelines when the Juice injury was announced, we think, it's going to be John Moxley. He's going to be flying in. Well, Dave Meltzer's had to field that question tons of times. Like,
Yeah.
maybe proven wrong, but John Moxley, I do not see him being on these shows. Like, and we can touch on that in a bit. But as for the match we are getting, Kojima Kenta, Kojima, I would say, out of and a lot of people roll the eyes at this particular place, but the New Japan dads, the older generation, the old guard. Out of your Yuji Nagata's, your Togi Makabe's, your Tomoaki, well, we'll say Homer's that group, but Nagata, Kojima, he is one of those guys, probably the guy in that group who can still go on a consistent level.
Right.
The only problem is because of he left the company about 10 years ago. He's on good terms, but because he left, he's maybe not seen on the same kind of pedestal as say a Tanahashi, for instance. He left, went to greener pastures elsewhere and came back. And I guess that's maybe why Kojima's in the role he's in, where he's maybe a guy padding out the young line tags, for instance, or a guy who's, in this case, literally a last-minute filler for, a tag match at Cork and Hall, which now fed into this right to challenge title match. Match itself, I would expect to be absolutely solid at the absolute worst. Kojima, he had that entire run during World Tag League where he was picking up pin after pin after pin after pin. Okay, it was against young lions in tag matches, but the fact that he got up, I think it was like 12 pins in a row, tells you they still have some degree of respect for him. Now, I'm not saying this is going to be Kojima beats Kenta in 5 minutes. No, I'm expecting Kojima to win. The fact that this potentially Could be Kojima's final Tokyo Dome match, could be his final singles match at Wrestle Kingdom. He's going to be out there with something to prove, and I think Kenta as well. The Pusod's got that red briefcase, got a new one now. That's, I could see, depending on how vaccinations everything goes with COVID in 2021, that briefcase I do worry could become a bit of a millstone around his neck. But I also don't see a situation where they strip him. I don't think they do that, but I can't see him losing it to anyone either.
Yeah, that's again, we've talked about it for a while, but they're in an interesting situation in terms of what they do there in terms of that title. That takes us to the fourth match, which this is an interesting one. Hiroshi Tanahashi versus Great-O-Khan. We've talked about Great-O-Khan, sort of the year he's had in terms of just coming back onto the scene and just basically, now he's had matches against Okada, and now he's going to have a Wrestle Kingdom match against Tanahashi. New Japan sort of playing this up as a potential changing of the guard and sort of this last stand for Tanahashi is how they have played this up in terms of someone who has gone through the grind that he has throughout his career, all these G1s, just all these different matches he's had, and now being in a position where he's going up against someone like this. Again, I think that the story is interesting behind this. Maybe not the match that we had penciled in for Tanahashi at this point, in his career to have this match against Great-O-Khan, but I think it's interesting the way they're playing up. Again, just to sort of pushing it as Tanahashi essentially being at a crossroads here.
Well, you think so? Only a few years back, he had that match with Jay White when White came back from his excursion. It's the same kind of thing here. Now, O'Khan, he's only literally been back. I think when he has this match, he's only been back 3 months. So to have high-profile singles matches against Tanahashi and Okada in basically your first 90 days back from excursion, they see something really big in him. I mean, if you've been watching the World Tag League, Road 2 shows, what have you, Great-O-Khan has got cosplays in pretty much every one of those shows, and I'm not talking about some guy in the back of the room in a towel, the question mark towel over his head. You've got guys taking the time the full the yellow the Mongolian inspired outfit, going to shows dressed in that. For someone who's literally been back from excursion for 90 days. Okay, yeah, he had that couple of matches. Was it the Cursed US tour, which I certainly didn't pay much attention to. Some people certainly did. I don't think those would have gone over well in Japan. Well, wouldn't have been seen much in Japan either. So effectively, you've got a guy back from was a 2-year excursion in England, come back, same gimmick, okay, same name at least, same outfit, and to connect the crowd to the point where his merch seems to be selling pretty well. You got guys coming in, their fans coming up in his outfits and cosplay. They've got big things planned for him. In fact, the crowd have connected to him, even as a bad guy. Tells you there is some connection there. Tanahashi's 2020, well, you don't need me to tell you that his 2020 has been nothing short of disastrous, at least from a kayfabe side.
Agreed, and it is. It kind of feels like one of those positions where, like you said, New Japan clearly sees a lot of Great-O-Khan, and it would to get a win against Tanahashi at Wrestle Kingdom, that would certainly prove that without question. All right, the semi-main event here, the fifth match on the main card, night one. Kazuchika Okada versus Will Ospreay. This match pretty much doesn't need much of anything from a hype standpoint when it comes to what we should get in the ring. This is one that I think a lot of people are already marking down as a potential match of the year candidate only 4 days into the new year. And we've talked about it before, Ian. These two have certainly had interesting years for themselves, with Okada kind of being away from the title, and you have Ospreay, come back and this, much different character that we're used to with him. And now these two squaring off, we've seen them square off before, but seeing them here at Wrestle Kingdom in this spot, the expectations are high, and that would certainly be an understatement.
I think, so for me, I'm a little bit disappointed in the build they've had for this match. Now, obviously, the G1 final, the end of the G1s when Ospreay turned on Okada, formed the Empire. They had the brief build with Great-O-Khan, Okada, for power struggle, and then because neither of these guys worked the World Tag League Tour, we've had a month of nothing. So really, the build for this in terms of a traditional, we've had all these undercard tags, running, and what have you, that has been pretty lacking to me. The build for this match, I'm I'm excited for it in terms of what's going to be between the bells, but in terms of going in, I'm not feeling this one. Like, I know we've had history. I mean, it was phase two nearly 5 years, or just over 5 years ago for Rev Pro in Reading in England. That was the match we got Ospreay on New Japan's radar. Okada Ospreay. Okada obviously went back to the office. Told the guys, take a look at Ospreay. The rest is history. To me, like say, the fact that we had the big turn at the end of the G1, you had the introduction of Great O'Khan, then literally nothing for a month after then. This does seem to be a match which on paper is going to be very good between the bells, but in terms of the storyline, I'm feeling a bit cold on this one. It's no fault of Okada, no fault of Ospreay, no matter what nicknames he's given himself these days. But there's just something about this one. I'm not feeling this. Like I say, the matches I have very high hopes for. I would not be surprised if Okada lost it. For the simple fact that you've got O'Khan and Ospreay back to back. I'm kind of expecting Tanahashi to win that particular match before it be one last hurrah. I've still got it kind of thing. If Tanahashi wins that one, I'm expecting Ospreay to win this one. But yeah, to me, it just seems a bit the way it's being built, the whole stop-start nature of it, and again, their hand has kind of been forced by the fact that the World Tag League and the Best Super Juniors Tour had no substantial undercard to it, where you maybe would have seen these kind of matches kept simmering at least. And I do think that has kind of hurt the build a bit. I mean, okay, we've got a few more days, but I do think at this point, if they do release like any more interviews, what have you, a lot of the audience won't be tuning in for those kind of things. Yeah, I say to me, it just feels like the match which really has had the longest build. We're talking since, technically since Wrestle Kingdom, not Wrestle Kingdom, since the G1 Climax when this first started. I don't know what it is, but the match where on paper had the most time to do something with, it's cold to me.
Yeah, it's almost like they're just banking on, like we said, the match quality and assuming that they're going to deliver, which, again, they probably will. They probably will deliver quite a match. But as you said, in terms of just some of the build, and really for a lot of these we talked about, it's just been so different because of the year that it's been. And like you said, some of these guys not being on all these shows. And it's just, yeah, the build to a lot of these have almost felt pretty quick in some instances. But we will see what happens there in that one, as I mentioned.
The next one, just maybe some sort of thrown out the top. And this may be me being very harsh on New Japan, given they had 3 months off. To you, does this feel like it's a Wrestle Kingdom time of year? Because I've had a few people say that this is almost the same kind of trap as WWE's got themselves into, where you've got Hell in a Cell. Why? Because the pay-per-view is called Hell in a Cell.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got big matches, but to me, a lot of these matches on the card don't really feel like they're peaking, whereas in years gone by, yeah, you can point finger at the 3-month shutdown they had, but even then, I do think that potentially having the double dome is kind of dragging this down. Having to do 12 matches, having to have 12 storylines or what have you to peak at one time. To me, let's say it's Wrestle Kingdom, it'll be good, but like I say, a lot of this does feel like, well, it's January 4th, I guess it's Wrestle Kingdom again, rather than everyone being hyped up like they were in years gone by.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that. And even when I was putting together my notes and watching some of the stuff leading into us doing this podcast, I was thinking the same thing. I was like, I remember back to what things were like going into Wrestle Kingdom last year. And of course, everything at that point, and we'll talk about Naito and Ibushi in a second, but it was, we were so into that whole Naito thing. And still at this point, you're into it, but it's different now. And it's like, is that the year? Is that just some of the circumstances that are surrounding things in terms of what the build is? And like you said, it's almost like a lot of these storylines aren't like the finish of some of these storylines. It's almost like some of these are at the very beginning or maybe just at that quarter point or midway point or whatever. And it doesn't necessarily feel like that. Plus, you have the 2 nights, and I know people have gone back and forth on that in terms of, okay, do we want to see this continue moving forward? Do we think this is the best idea? I think in a year like this, if you put some of the matches that we're going to talk about on night 2, combine them with some of these top ones on night 1, maybe it's a little bit different of an experience. But I do think I kind of agree with you, though. having the 2 nights. I know you want to get everyone involved, as many people involved as you can, and maybe that's why they're still doing the split. But at the same time, in a year like this, it does like it feels a little bit different. And while I don't underestimate the fact that they're going to deliver, and I think both of these they'll be 2 good nights of really great professional wrestling. But at the same time, it doesn't necessarily, from top to bottom, necessarily have that Wrestle Kingdom feel to it.
So yeah, we're going on to main event of night one. So again, I understand people are on rise at this. So Kota Ibushi won back-to-back G1s. He's the first guy to lose the G1 winner's briefcase. Yet he still gets a title match with Tetsuya Naito on night one. Look, I understand why we're doing it. We need 2 Tokyo Dome main events, but we can't do mini tournament like we did last year. I don't know how, if they do Double Dome next year or 2021 or 2022 even, how would do something like this again. Look, Naito and Ibushi, they've had several singles matches before. I think the only 2 title matches they've had previously have been just for the Intercontinental title. And the last time they met, June 2019, they damn near killed each other. And that's not they did some stuff that looked dangerous. No, Ibushi landed on his head several times in that match at Dominion, from what I recall.
Yeah.
And they have been purposely kept away from each other for fear of, that whole can you top this deal we've got going on. I'm not one of these, safety police, whatever you want to call it. I am very much worried what Kota Ibushi is going to up his mind.
Yes.
Come, Monday night in Tokyo, because if they're past matches or anything to go by, there's going to be a lot of head drops. And if you are worried or concerned, turn off of main event, because it is absolutely not going to be easy watching for you.
No, it's not, and I was already thinking about that. Just this. I mean, because we knew we were probably getting to this point of these 2, squaring off, and the big main event here, and it is to think back, and this is one where I like to go back and watch stuff heading into Wrestle Kingdom, and just kind of go through the history of some of these guys that are squaring off with each other, and even if it's not some of the recent stuff, but going back and just watching that match, like, that's not something I want to do. Like, I don't want to go back and watch that match between those 2, because it was just terrifying. And I'm with you, Ian. I don't know what to expect here. You would think at least maybe there's someone in both of these guys' ears saying, hey, we appreciate what you did there, the last one, but please let's not do that again, because man, there was certainly some safety concerns with that one.
I mean, this one obviously when it goes into the main event night 2, which we'll touch in a moment. But yeah, I mean, we had Naito. His year was last year. He got his moment when Kenta took it away from him. I would not be surprised if Ibushi wins this one, because he won back-to-back G1s. He lost the briefcase, and okay, he got the title shot, charitably, if you want to, be a bit cruel there. I do see Ibushi winning on night 1. I don't particularly see him leaving, finishing or walking out of Tokyo Dome's a pair of shows with the titles. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see, because I just feel like Ibushi, to some extent, he is somewhat untouchable, but I do worry if you keep putting him in top positions like this. Like last year, he won the G1. He lost both matches he had for Dome.
Yeah.
He won the G1 2020. He lost the briefcase. If he loses here, where does he stand for 2021 going forward? And to me, I'm not saying we're beating him like a drum, but you can only have a guy in so many top level positions. It's the Lex Luger thing. If you want to use a horrible comparison, I mean, he's not Lex Luger in any way, shape, or form. But it's the same kind of thing you had there, where Lex had for the big title shots. He lost too many of them. People lost faith in him. I'm not saying you're going to get that in Japan to definitely not that extent, but I do wonder, especially if we've got the Western audience waning a little bit, I do wonder how many more times can you put Ibushi in a top spot and just have him, be the guy leaving with his tail tucked between his legs.
It's not that people stop caring, it's that they stop believing that these guys have a chance to win. And I think with him, You bring up a good point, because at some point you can only lose so many big matches, and then people stop thinking that you're actually going to have a chance when you're put in those situations again. It doesn't feel the same, the second time, the third time, the fourth time, and on down the line. So very interesting setup there, and we'll talk more about Ibushi here in just a minute when we get into the main event of night 2. But let's go into night 2, which before we actually get into the main card, Ian, there will be the dark matches on the pre-show, which these will not air on any of the streaming services. You won't be able to see this on NJPW World Fight or any other places that you watch this, but we will have 2 matches from Stardom. This is obviously something we had a match from Stardom on Wrestle Kingdom 14 this past year, and now we'll have 2 here on the card for this year.
Yes, I mean, I had a quick look on Stardom World before we hit record. It doesn't look like the match they did last year made tape, and I'm just going to pull up on the results to make sure we know what that match was. But yeah, obviously Stardom, owned by Bushi Road. It's a parent company, same company owns New Japan. Last year they had Mayu Iwatani, Arisa Hoshiki against the late Hana Kimura and Julia. That did make tape. This year they're going with 2 tag matches, and Stardom, like New Japan, very big into the factions. Queen's Quest's Izumi, Saya Kamitani, and Itami Hayashishita against Johnny Del Mondo's Natsupoi, Himeka, and Maika. And the second one's a 2-on-2 tag match, Stars, Tamina Kano, and Mayu Iwatani against Johnny Del Mondo's Julia and Suri. Look, I understand what Bushiroad are doing. They're trying to expand the Stardom name, get more people's eyes on the product. Distribution contracts mean that these aren't going to be on the fight stream. Like I say, it's not going to be NJPW World Stream, which is a shame for fans who maybe don't watch Stardom World or aren't even aware of Stardom. But unfortunately, until new deals get signed, that's going to be the way it is. This is just for a live audience, and I'm sure we'll get new eyeballs, but it's slowly building up to whatever plans Bushiroad's got for Stardom in the years ahead.
Yeah, like you said, unfortunate that I think for a lot of people who would like to see that, that maybe don't get a chance to watch, every Stardom event, and there's a lot of people that don't just get a chance, and maybe that would open up, like you mentioned, some eyeballs. But until some of those new deals are in place, just not going to be streamed, won't be able to see that one. But should be a treat for those there at the Dome to get to watch that. But let's go into the main card on night 2. As we said in talking about night 1, there will be the King of Pro Wrestling 4-way match. We don't know who will be in the match, but we know that will be on the card for night 2. That will be the first match, and that will lead into the second match on the card, which will be for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship, the Tag Team Championships, with El Desperado and Yoshinobu Kanemaru taking on Taguchi and Master Wato. This is an interesting one here, Ian, as certainly you look at the characters involved here, Master Wato, and you have El Desperado on the other side. Interesting championship match here for these as well.
Yes, I mean, I didn't realise until I think it was one of the last Korakuen shows of the year, Wato and Taguchi called themselves 1 and 8, which was a British rare stroke there if you want to touch that for barge pole. But look, Master Wato came back from Excursion. They debuted him in front of literally nobody on those New Japan Cup shows, which is a brave move. I mean, you just look the way he's been handled against, say, Great Khan. It's clear they've slotted both guys in completely polar opposite spots on the card. Wato, he had a fairly decent run in Best of Super Juniors, even though there were points where I was absolutely convinced he was going to kill either himself or somebody else in his matches. Taguchi's safe pair of hands, usually has a good performance in Best of Super Juniors. Didn't really have that this year, but he's definitely on the downward side of his career, I would say. Both Wato and Taguchi beat Desperado in Best of Super Juniors. I would have expected, had Kanemaru not been injured, it maybe been mirrored, or at least the load would have been shared there. Yeah, look, I don't really think that, the junior division at the moment, especially with, a lot of the foreign talent not being named, the junior tag division right now it's pretty much bare. It's Kanemaru and Desperado. I mean, they had that tag title, there was a lot of makeshift teams. To me, the result of this, I don't say it's pointless, but if they go on Wato and Taguchi, well, who do they feud with for their title defenses? It'll be these two teams back and forth unless they can pivot around. And I'll say this, I remember a few years back there was that rumour where, back when you had the Young Bucks, you had a really strong heavyweight, had a fairly strong junior tag division and a middling heavyweight tag division. There was speculation they were going to merge those belts. The way it is now, they may as well have done that because the junior tag division very much thin on the ground. And again, like this, it'd be a good match. We've done the build for it. It's second on the card for a reason. It'll be title tag match, but yeah, not one I'm expecting to be any particular great shakes.
Well, this next one I have high expectations for, and I don't think anyone should be surprised by that, given how much I've talked about both Shingo Takagi and Jeff Cobb in the past. This will be for the Never Openweight Championship, and this should be about as stiff and of a match as it gets with these two. They are going to beat the hell out of each other, I think is the best way to put it. If you look at sort of the year that both of these two have had, obviously Shingo, all the great matches that he had on G1 for Jeff Cobb, he has now joined the Empire. He is someone that I think, a lot of people have been asking, for something. I don't know if it was just from an in-ring standpoint or maybe something more to kind of develop the character in New Japan, and I think we're starting to see a little bit more of that now with the way things have gone, over the past several months with him. Certainly that they're playing up the fact that Jeff Cobb has kind of had Shingo's number here as of late, given some of the results both in the G1 and the World Tag League. So I am very excited for this one, Ian. I think that this is certainly one that could be a show stealer for sure, and I'm very fascinated by these two going at it here.
Absolutely. I mean, look, the Empire's absolutely lit the fire under Jeff Cobb. I mean, like you said, the first few years he's been in New Japan, he's been on ad hoc tours, he's had random tag partners. This is the first time he really feels like he's had any kind of, I don't want to say meaning, but he's had any kind of direction in this company. Shingo, look, he's probably definitely the best guys we've got in the roster. He's never going to be in the top tier, I would say, just because of age and his background, not come or raised in New Japan. This one, I have a feeling is going to steal the show. I mean, I'm expecting these cards will be the same we've done on all along, free match, interval, free match. So this is your first half main event, to use that term. This is going to be, I'd say, a sleeper, probably one of the better matches of the weekend, or sorry, the two shows. I mean, they've been absolutely stiff. And look, I've not seen Cobb, in this kind of atmosphere before, but if he's, bringing it and giving as good as he gets, this one's going to knock it out of the park, literally and physically.
Well, this next match, I think probably if we had talked about this a year ago, year and a half ago maybe, we probably would have had different, I don't know, it just would have been a different scenario maybe heading into it, but Evil versus Sonata. And we know kind of the year that Evil's had in winning the championships and being in a spot where he was elevated, to the highest point in the company. And then we also know that for Sonata, he is someone that I think a lot of people are still just sort of waiting for that next step for him. I mean, for me, and this is one that I thought that I would just really, if you'd have asked me a year ago, I said, oh, okay, a year from now we're going to have Evil versus Sonata, and, I would have been like, oh, well, I'm just so thrilled and excited for this one, and I think, in a sense, I still think this is, at least going to be one that I'm intrigued by, but it just doesn't necessarily carry that level of anticipation that I would have thought it would maybe before the year that these two have had. And I don't know if that's being completely fair, but it's just, I mean, we talked about some of those matches, with Evil at the top and Naito. And I think it's just, I don't know. To me, it's just interesting where both of these two are at right now. And I'm not exactly sure maybe, where exactly these two are going from here. But I guess we'll find out.
I think with Evil, I mean, New Japan's meant to chart everything out years in advance. Apparently, it's reported Evil was meant to have had this title run. This was decided last 2019, the latest. To me, it comes across like maybe Evil was meant to have won the New Japan Cup, but got cancelled. Win the title, won the shows after that. and have a fairly long run, but the way they condensed everything after the restart, he won the title, had the defense against Hiromu, lost it back to Naito, and then lost the rubber match, for one better word. So to me, the fact that they've kind of kept the same storyline and the matches and the schedule of things, it does, I don't say it's jobbed them out, but that combined with how they didn't do too greatly in Tag League, it kind of does look like it's had a very quick peak and he's dropped off really, really, really badly. You put this in comparison with Sanada, after he left LIJ, he didn't seem that fussed. Like, you've got a guy who you've won multiple World Tag Leagues with, been tag champion with multiple times, and he just didn't seem to care. And okay, yeah, World Tag League this year and the Corkin shows, he's something's happened, he's snapped, he's gone after evil, but to me it does feel a lot like it's too little too late. You've had an entire summer, an autumn, fall, winter of Sanada being in the same building as evil and just not caring. The fact that Hiromu cared more about evil leaving LIJ than Sanada did kind of says something. I know Sanada's very stoic as this whole character, but just to me, if and this is anywhere, so I don't care if it's New Japan, WWE, AEW, wherever. But if you have something like your tag partner turning on you and you don't care, why am I meant to care 6 months later when you suddenly realize, oh, he did that to me?
Yeah.
And yeah, they've done something for it, and great. Now, I am slightly interested to see, is this going to be a brawl? Is this just going to be, Sanada doing his usual stuff, then Dick Togo chokes him out with the garrote wire, Evil does the Dick Punch roll up, blah blah blah. Any other tag team, especially one that's been around as long as them, splitting up, by right should be Wrestle Kingdom match on its own. The way they've got there for this, I'm not supposed for this at all.
You said it better than I could have, because that was kind of what I was thinking. Is you always thought this was going to be the Wrestle Kingdom match, but it's the sort of the direction and how they got to point B from point A. Just, I don't know, it just didn't maybe feel up to what we thought it would. Probably, I mean, I'm interested in the match, as I said, but I'm probably more interested in kind of where both of them go from here, because I think it will be very telling in terms of maybe what the outcome of this match is, and then, immediately what's the next direction for both of these two, because, as we said, they've certainly had a bit of an up and down year for both of them, with Evil being the one that got a little bit further to the top there, and now, as you said, it's sort of just dropped off, and yeah, we'll see where things go for both of them from here. That will lead us to the fifth match on night 2, which will be for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title. We mentioned Hiromu and Phantasmo on night 1. We both think that there'll probably be a situation where Hiromu is in a position to be in this match on night 2 against Ishimori. Ian, I guess that we talked a lot about Hiromu and Phantasmo, but for Ishimori, he's someone that has certainly had quite a run.
I mean, I'm looking at the card now, and they're saying that this is his first defense of the junior heavyweight title, which he won back with some struggle in Jingu last year. If that's true, that kind of tells you how little focus they've put on the juniors.
Yeah,
you can say, well, we've had best of Super Junior, that's replacement, fair enough. It's like, you've got a guy who's been champion for 6 months, and that belt has barely been figured into matches. Look, speculation was, Phantasmo was meant to have a big, run this year. You're either going to get Bullet Club Civil War, which has been teased for. This just seems to be about a year or two now we've been teasing internal strife in Bullet Club. The easiest way to is Hiromu wins the belt back, Phantasmo attacks him after the match. There's your instant feud built in for at least to new beginnings and what have you. But yeah, I think this one, Phantasmo and Ishimori be a decent match. Hiromu Ishimori, I would say, is a better match based on what they had at Summer Struggle. But yeah, to me, I think the fact that you've got a guy whose first defense is against someone who's done double duty for the week for two shows. It'd be a good match, but again, because it's literally something being done on a day's build, it's going to be somewhat hard to get into.
Yeah, and New Japan, as they noted, always good stats that I love. that as we know, the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title has been changed hands every Wrestle Kingdom since 2014. So that's also something certainly that does not play to Ishimori's favor, like you said, in addition to the fact that hasn't been featured a whole lot to this point, but will certainly be a big match there for him in that spot. And of course, that will lead us to things that will wrap up the two nights with Jay White challenging either Tetsuya Naito or Kota Ibushi for the IWGP Heavyweight and Intercontinental titles. You mentioned that, Ian, all the different potential scenarios that could play out in this one. It is going to certainly be one to where if Ibushi and Naito have that physically grueling match on night one that unfortunately I think we're probably going to get, it will be interesting to see kind of what either one of those two are in, in a spot here heading into night two. How do you see this one playing out? I know there's been a lot of sort of speculation as to what the potential options are, what are the scenarios that New Japan could go with here, and maybe just what the expectations are for this match.
So I think regardless of who the opponent is, I just have a sneaky feeling Jay White's leaving with the two belts. You had, like say, the Bullet Club Civil War, whatever you want to call it, with teasing the match when Evil won the titles early in the year, lost them fairly quickly. If Jay White wins, I can see that sparking up again, especially if he holds the belts at any length. I do think the concern you've got here all goes back to the G1 stuff. You've got people mad for whatever reason because the G1 winner isn't in the big Tokyo Dome main event. Well, yeah, but problem is you also had that trope of the guy who had the briefcase never lost, so one of those two had to give. I think with this, Jay White isn't wrestling on the first night in much the same way you're not having a card on Tanahashi on night two, which personally I think is a fairly bold move. You look at the night two card, and really in terms of the classic main event star or classic New Japan stars, you're not getting any of those on this show. Maybe Hiromu, but I wouldn't really term as a classic, long time New Japan main eventer. So this is one that's really being built around the top two matches, half of which we don't know. So I don't know whether it be angles after those matches or whether just saying, well, we've got a capped crowd because of the COVID guidelines, restrictions, so we do what we do. Jay White, to his part, he has really grown into his own as, I don't want to say a lovable rogue, but you know what I mean, like because the crowds aren't allowed to cheer, he's mocking them. Go on, chant for Ibushi, go on, Ibushi, and mocking clap crowds, which you're meant to hate, but this part of me just cannot help but get a kick out of him, just really winding the crowd up like that. Look, out for three guys involved, we've had Naito as champion, and if you lose for belts, what more to do? Another run for the belts. Ibushi, we've already discussed, and you beat him like a drum and have him lose again. Which is why I can't see him losing on night one. But I also think that if you have him come into this one hurt and lose to Jay White, well, you've got to feud for. I don't want to say Ibushi has to go for G1 again, but I do think you have a longer term match in there with the two at full fitness, for a better word. But yeah, I think Jay White's going to be coming out this with two champions, and maybe that is going to be one thing that sets the fuse on the, say, that whole Bullet Club internal strife thing. Especially now, as you say, you get more and more of the foreign stars coming back, particularly in the Bullet Club side of things.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think the more appealing option to me is to see Ibushi versus Jay White, and of course that's not to knock Naito, but as you said, I mean he had his big shining moment, and I think now for Ibushi to be in that spot where he loses on night one, I just think that sets up, as we talked about, it's the Lex Luger effect, certainly, and there are probably other guys we could think of that have been in that same spot before, but I would be very intrigued by that if it's Ibushi versus Jay White, and like you mentioned, with the potential that Jay White, who has really grown into this character, and as you said, he's almost someone that that everyone sort of loves to hate, I think, but that can also be a good thing everything if they care about you that much. And so we will see what happens. Those are the two cards for Night 1 and Night 2 of Wrestle Kingdom 15. As we mentioned, it should be quite a bit of fun action, even if maybe it doesn't necessarily feel like Wrestle Kingdom to some people, but this is still going to be one that I think will deliver inside the squared circle.
And again, I was going to say, Kevin Kelly's in Japan. I think he's finishing up quarantine any day now.
Yep.
First time him, Chris Charlton. I think Rocky Romero's the third guy. They're going to have live English commentary on site for the first time since, I would say it was the Nakanishi retirement show last February. So they've got both nights Wrestle Kingdom and the New Year's Dash show on the Wednesday morning. Everywhere outside Japan, obviously. That typically sets the stage for a lot of stuff in 2021. Yep. So, yeah, I mean, it may not be the Wrestle Kingdom we know, but considering the circumstances and the fact that, like a lot of places seem to be winding down again, the fact we're getting anything resembling Wrestle Kingdom, it may be name only, but it's a New Japan Tokyo Dome show, and those usually are special in this day and age.
Yep, they are for sure, and we will actually plan on being back here on next Wednesday, which we will, you and I are going to do a review podcast. That is the plan right now, so you can be sure to subscribe to the 411 on Wrestling Podcast on any podcast app you use, and we will have our thoughts on all the action there. And Ian, anything else you have coming up over on the website? Obviously, we've talked before, and our regular listeners know you do a lot of stuff over there, watch a lot of different stuff. Anything else you have coming up you want to plug?
So, yeah, next day should be putting in something akin to a 2020 review piece. It's not going to be a blow-by-blow, January 1st this happened, but covering a lot of the big talking points on there. Coming days, obviously tomorrow's New Year's Eve, final next to UK of the year, and also WXW, they are doing they're calling this New Year's Eve special, a couple of matches being taped, plus some unaired footage. Looking to have those up. Phone one by not tomorrow, then early 2021. That feels absolutely weird to say, but this year has felt like an absolute decade, and hopefully, not to beat a dead horse too much, but hopefully there's light at the end of the tunnel. Just got to get through the next few months, and hopefully, say that light is going to be getting a lot closer for a lot of us.
Indeed. So check out all that stuff over at 411mania.com. And as we continue to mention in the show notes for this episode of the podcast, we will have the link to the GoFundMe for Larry Zonka's family. So please continue to share that if you can. And again, check everything else out over at 411mania.com. You can find Ian on Twitter at Ian Wrestling, and you can find me on Twitter at WrestleBlake. So thanks for listening to this episode of the podcast. Enjoy Wrestle Kingdom, and we'll talk to you next time here on the 411 on Wrestling Podcast.